The rain had turned the compound's front gate into a river of mud when she collapsed against it at 3 in the morning, and the motion sensors didn't pick her up because she'd fallen below their range. Marcus Atlas. Chin only found her because he couldn't sleep, because the nightmares from Kandahar had come back harder than usual, because he'd walked outside to let the rain wash away the memories. She was maybe 15, 16 at most, face down in the mud, unconscious, and her shirt had ridden up just enough for him to see what looked like burn scars cover her entire back. Except they weren't random. They formed a pattern. Lines. Symbols. Coordinates. Someone had tattooed a map onto this girl's back, and then tried to burn it off her skin. Atlas knelt in the mud, checking her pulse with fingers that had performed this exact motion on dozens of battlefields. Weak but steady. He lifted her carefully, noting how light she was, how her ribs were too prominent under her silk clothes, how her breathing was shallow but regular. Nina! His voice carried across the compound. Medical now. Lights flickered on in the main building. Within 30 seconds, Nina Rodriguez, former Army medic, current compound second in command, was running toward him in sweatpants and a tank top, medical kit already in hand. What do we have? She was all business, her hands already assessing as Atlas carried the girl toward the infirmary. Unconscious female, mid-teens, hypothermic, malnourished. And Nina, he turned so she could see the girl's back. Someone carved a map into her skin and tried to burn it off. Nina's professional mask slipped for just a second. Jesus Christ. They worked in synchronized silence born from years of emergency response together. Nina started in 4, checked vitals, wrapped the girl in heated blankets. Atlas stood guard at the door, his military training automatically cataloging every detail. The girl's worn sneakers held together with duct tape, the bruises on her wrists that looked like restraint marks, the way her hands were clenched even unconscious like she was holding on to something. She was holding something. A torn piece of paper clutched so tightly her knuckles were white. Nina carefully pried it free. It was a Polaroid photo, water-damaged, but still visible. A woman, maybe 30, with the same dark hair as a girl, same sharp jawline, written on the back in shaky handwriting. Riley, if something happens to me, run. Don't trust anyone. The map is everything. Nam. Riley, Atlas said softly. Her name is Riley. She woke up 6 hours later with a scream that brought 3 people running. By the time they reached the infirmary, Riley had Nina pinned against the wall with scalpels she'd somehow grabbed from the medical tray, her eyes wild with terror and something else, training. Where am I? Who are you? Where's my mother? The scalpel didn't waver. Atlas stepped into view slowly, hands visible, posture non-threatening. You're in the Iron Guardian's compound, 20 miles outside Denver. You collapsed at our gate. We brought you in, patched you up, and kept you safe. That's it. No one's called the police. No one's touched you except to provide medical care. Bullshit. Everyone wants the map. Riley's voice cracked. Everyone. We don't even know what the map shows, Nina said carefully, not moving despite the blade near her throat. But if you're running from people who hurt you, you're safe here. This compound is a sanctuary for people who need protection. That's what we do. The Iron Guardians, Riley repeated, processing. The biker club that... Wait! You're the ones who saved that mother and baby in traffic last year. I saw it on the news. That's us, Atlas confirmed. And we're the ones who'll protect you now. But first, you need to put down the scalpel and let Nina go. Then we can talk about your mother and whatever map you're carrying. Riley's hand trembled. Then slowly, painfully slowly, she lowered the weapon. Nina stepped back carefully, rubbing her throat, but showing no anger. Thank you, Nina said simply. Now, how about we get you some real food and dry clothes, and you can tell us what you're running from? An hour later, Riley sat in the compound's kitchen wearing borrowed sweatpants and a hoodie, demolishing her third sandwich while Atlas and Nina listened to a story that made their blood run cold. My mom was Michelle Parker. She was an accountant for the Crimson Brotherhood militia. You heard of them? Atlas and Nina exchanged looks. Everyone in the security community had heard of the Crimson Brotherhood, white supremacist militia group. heavily armed, suspected of planning domestic terrorism attacks. The FBI had raided their compound in Montana 6 months ago, but the leaders had scattered and most of their weapons cache had never been recovered. My mom didn't know what they really were when she took the job, Riley continued. She just thought it was bookkeeping for some survivalist group. By the time she figured out the truth, she'd seen too much. She tried to leave, but they said she knew where all their resources were, said she was a liability. She pulled down the collar of the hoodie, showing fresh bruises around her neck. They grabbed us 3 weeks ago, kept us in this compound in Wyoming. The leader, this psycho named Garrett Cross, he had this plan. He said if Mom wouldn't tell them where she'd hidden their financial records, he'd make sure the information stayed with the family forever. Riley's voice went flat, the way trauma survivors' voices do when recounting the unthinkable. He had this guy, ex-Marine gone bad, who specialized in modifications. He tattooed a map onto my back. Every location where Mom had hidden evidence, financial records, everything that could bring down the Brotherhood. Then Garrett said he was going to burn it off me piece by piece until Mom told them which location had what they needed most. Jesus, Nina breathed. Mom went crazy, started fighting. In the chaos, she got me out, told me to run. Last thing I heard was gunshots. Riley's eyes filled with tears. That was 3 days ago. I've been running ever since. Sleeping in culverts, stealing food, trying to stay off cameras. Then I saw your compound lights, and I couldn't run anymore. Atlas pulled out his phone and brought up a news article. Michelle Parker, 34, found dead in her Wyoming home, apparent suicide. That's the official story. That's bullshit. Riley slammed her hand on the table. Mom didn't kill herself. They murdered her. And now they're looking for me because I'm carrying the only remaining copy of the map. They burned the original. The tattoo on my back is literally the only record of where Mom hid everything. Nina was already photographing Riley's back carefully, documenting the scar pattern. When she pulled up the images on her laptop, Atlas leaned in, his military training kicking in immediately. These aren't random coordinates, he said, tracing lines on the screen. This is a tactical map. See these markers? Those are military standard symbols for weapons caches. And these numbers... He pulled out paper and started transcribing. These are GPS coordinates using a modified grid system. Someone with serious training made this map. My mom's brother was military, Riley said quietly. Special forces. He died in Afghanistan before I was born, but Mom kept all his field notebooks. She learned tactical navigation from them. Atlas worked for 20 minutes, cross-referencing coordinates, decoding symbols, until he sat back with an expression Nina recognized. She'd seen it in Kandahar when he'd figured out where enemy weapons were hidden based on intercepted communications. There are 6 locations, Atlas said. 5 are decoys, small caches, maybe some evidence, but nothing critical. But this one, he pointed to a complex series of symbols on Riley's left shoulder blade. This one is different. It's heavily coded, has multiple security markers, and based on the notation, it's an extremely hostile territory. Hostile how? Nina asked. It's in the Black Ridge territory. Montana-Wyoming border. That's where Crimson Brotherhood's core leadership disappeared to after the FBI raid. Nina's face went pale. Atlas, I have 3 undercover assets in that region. FBI informants embedded in various militia groups. If the Brotherhood even suspects someone's poking around. Your contacts go dark or they die, Atlas finished. I know, but look at what this cache supposedly contains. He pointed to a notation that read CF all in tiny letters. CF means core files. All means everything. Financial records, membership lists, weapons manifests, operational plans. Everything the FBI needs to dismantle the Brotherhood permanently. It's also everything that'll get Riley killed if they find her, Nina said. Riley stood up, her voice stronger than it had been. They already killed my mom. They already tortured me. I've been running for 3 days with this map burned into my skin, and I'll be running for the rest of my life unless someone stops them. If that cache has what you say it does, we have to get it. We. Atlas raised an eyebrow. You think I'm sitting this out? That map is part of me now. Literally. I'm the only one who can verify if we're at the right location, because Mom embedded confirmation codes that only I would know. She used my birthday, our old address, the name of our first cat, information that's not on any map, just in my memory. Nina shook her head. Absolutely not. You're 15, 16, and I've already been tortured by these people. What are you going to do? Leave me here while you go into their territory. They've got moles everywhere. Mom told me that before she died. Said they had people in law enforcement, in federal agencies, everywhere. The compound raid last year? They knew it was coming weeks in advance. That's how they got most of their people out. She had a point, and Atlas knew it. He looked at Nina, saw the same calculation happening behind her eyes. We need to make some calls. Nina said finally, if we're doing this, we do it smart. I need to check on my contacts, see who's still operational. And we need the club. Over the next 2 hours, the Iron Guardians leadership assembled. 12 bikers who'd served together, bled together, and now protected their community together. Atlas laid out the situation with military precision. The map, the cash, the danger, the potential payoff. So we're riding into white supremacist militia territory to recover evidence that might not exist based on a map tattooed onto a traumatized kid's back, while federal assets go dark, and everyone who knows about this is trying to kill said kid. Do I have that right? This from Marcus Wrench Rodriguez, the club's sergeant-at-arms. Pretty much, Atlas confirmed. I'm in, Wrench said without hesitation. Anybody who tortures kids needs to be stopped. Seconded, said Sarah Phoenix Kim. Plus, if that cash exists and we can get it to the right people, we prevent potential terrorist attacks. That's worth the risk. One by one, the club members voted. Unanimous. They were going. But Nina pulled Atlas aside after meeting. I have a problem. 3 of my FBI contacts in that region haven't checked in for 2 days. That's not normal. Something's wrong. You think the Brotherhood knows they're compromised? I think the Brotherhood is cleaning house before making a move. That cash Riley's mother hid? I think they need it back before they can execute whatever operation they're planning. And they're eliminating anyone who might interfere. Atlas processed this. Then we have less time than we thought. We have no time. If we're doing this, we go now. Tonight. They assembled 12 bikes, enough firepower to fight their way out if needed, and enough medical supplies for casualties. Riley refused to be left behind, and eventually Nina conceded, on the condition that she stayed with the support vehicle and never entered the hot zone. I'll give you the confirmation codes from safety, Riley agreed. But I'm coming. This is my mom's legacy. I'm not hiding while you risk your lives for it. They rode out at midnight, a convoy of motorcycles and 2 support vehicles, heading north toward territory where the Iron Guardians patches would paint targets on their backs. Atlas led the formation. Nina rode beside him. And behind them came the Brotherhood, men and women who'd answered the call without hesitation. As they crossed into Montana, Atlas's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Atlas. This is Agent Sarah Chun, FBI. Nina's contact. If you're heading to Black Ridge, turn back. Brotherhood knows you're coming. It's a trap. They've been monitoring Nina's communication for weeks. Whatever you think you're getting, they'll be waiting. Atlas showed it to Nina. Her face went white. They've been playing me, she whispered. All my contacts, my intelligence, everything. They've been feeding me exactly what they wanted me to know. And now they know about Riley, about the map, about everything we're planning. So what do we do? Atlas looked ahead at the road disappearing into darkness, at the club riding behind them trusting his leadership, at Riley in the support vehicle trusting them to make this right. We adapt, he said, because the one thing they don't know is that we know they're waiting. That gives us exactly one advantage. What's that? The element of surprise. They think we're walking into their trap. Instead, we're about to spring one of our own. He pulled over, gathered the club, and for the next 20 minutes laid out a plan that was either brilliant or suicidal. Possibly both. 2 hours later, As the sun rose over Black Ridge territory and Crimson Brotherhood militia members took positions around what they thought was the cache location, they never saw the Iron Guardians coming from the opposite direction, from terrain they'd assumed was impassable, led by a 16-year-old girl with a map burned into her skin and nothing left to lose. What happened next in that Montana valley would become classified by 3 federal agencies, but the results were clear. The Crimson Brotherhood leadership was arrested, their weapons cache was recovered, and Riley's mother's evidence put 37 domestic terrorists behind bars. The map that had been carved into Riley's flesh became the key to dismantling one of the most dangerous militia groups in the country. And Atlas, who'd gone into mission expecting to die, walked out with a new understanding. Sometimes the most important battles aren't fought on foreign soil. Sometimes they're fought for one kid who needed someone to believe her story and take the risk. Riley got adopted by Nina 6 months later. The scars on her back faded over time, but she had the entire map tattooed over again, this time as art, as a memorial to her mother, as proof that what was meant to destroy her became the tool of her salvation. And the Iron Guardians? They kept riding, kept protecting, kept answering calls from people who had nowhere else to turn, because that's what they did. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that the scariest-looking people are sometimes the bravest protectors, share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe for more true stories of courage against impossible odds. Drop your city in the comments below. Let's see how far this message of standing up for the powerless travels. Because every person who refuses to look away when a child is in danger changes the world. Every community that protects its vulnerable members matters. Every biker who risks everything for justice proves that heroes come in all forms. See you in the next story. Keep fighting the good fight.